Hi everyone, and welcome to today's event. I'm Laura Dillon from msdynamicsworld.com, and we're here today for a session all about fostering community, how the Dynamics user groups can benefit you both professionally and personally. We have a group of panelists with us today, led by Tony Stein. We're delighted to have them here with us. Tony's the Program Director for Dynamic Communities. As we get started, please know that we do welcome your questions today. You can enter them at any time in the Q&A box that you'll see over on the right side of your event window. And I know that our panelists and Tony will be leaving some time at the end to answer questions, as many of them as they can. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand things off to Tony to get us started. Tony?
Hi, Laura. Hope you can hear me well. Thank you for the nice introduction and inviting us to talk about fostering community across the Dynamics user groups. As Laura said, I'm Tony Stein. I'm with the D365 user group, which really is kind of the oversight user group of what was and what still is the Dynamics AX user group, AXUG, and Dynamics CRM user group, CRM-UG. But what we've seen evolving over the user groups over the last year and a half with the evolution of Dynamics 365 is that our user groups involve legacy users of Dynamics AX, legacy users of Dynamics CRM, and of course net new Dynamics 365 users and everyone else. And so throughout a given year, the user groups will do hundreds upon hundreds of different sessions and training and learning opportunities on how people can dive in and use these applications better, but very rarely do we actually get to talk about how the user groups actually benefit you as an individual, both professionally and personally. And I'm really thrilled today to have a panel discussion with Diane, Kelly, and Ed that we'll introduce later because they'll be sharing their experiences for being avid engaged users of the community. All three individuals not only engage and embrace the community, but they also participate and share. And they'll talk about how that's benefited them professionally and personally. So real quick on today's agenda, we will do welcome and introductions, and we will talk about who we are and why it matters. I hope you can humor me for about 10 minutes as I go through a few slides on who the user group is and why we exist and what this is all about. But in very short, we're a community that is for user by user, and in some sense, we are each other's keeper. Everything that happens in the user group comes from the ground up of like-minded individuals that use this application daily, and we're all here set on helping one another use it better. As Laura said, at the end of this hour, I won't be able to look at Q&A until towards the end of the hour, but I hope to review Q&A with all of you, and we can ask our panel questions after they go through what they'd like to share. So do please hold some Q&A for the end of the hour. I think we'll be through what we need to get through in about 30 to 35 minutes, and then we'll share the rest of the hour for Q&A. So we're looking forward to this discussion. Real quick, I'm asking Laura if she could open up some poll slides for all of us, because I think it'd be helpful for our panel and myself if we could understand how you heard about the user group, what job roles you are in the audience, and what version you're using, and then the situation. If you read through these 4 questions, Laura, do they just simply answer all 4 in unison, and we'll see how the results look?
Yeah, we'll give everybody a few minutes to get a chance to read through the 4 of them, and then takes 15 or 20 seconds or so for WebEx to process them, and then we'll publish the results.
All right. So looking at that bar graph, colleague friend is the predominant favorite. Lots of folks in the project program management, IT administrator side of things. Finance and accounting, of course. Developer is a part of this. You know, it's really interesting looking at the poll slides number 2. Whenever we do a marquee event, I was just in Dublin last week for Summit EMEA, and those people that registered for the event, this is very common in our user group settings. We see people predominantly, you know, from these roles of those that are responsible for the project, responsible for the success of their Dynamics AX, CRM, or 365 deployment. There's certainly people on the call that are true extensible gurus. They're the ones that are chartered with the projects of developing upon these applications. So these numbers look very respective to what we typically see at a lot of our marquee events and so forth. So that was interesting seeing those slides. And then the version that people are using, wow, impressive. What version of Dynamics are people currently using? So 82% say Dynamics 365, which is overwhelmingly higher than I thought it would necessarily be. I know that on the CRM user group side, we've seen people transition and migrate to Dynamics 365 a little quicker. Naturally, if you're a legacy AX user on AX7, 2009, 2012, those enterprise projects likely take 18 months, if not to 3 years or more. So it's probably a different ballgame for a lot of legacy AX users, but I'm impressed to see these many Dynamics 365 users already. And then about 10% of you considering Dynamics yet. So that's good to know. And of course some nav users there too, which is great. Which situation best describes why you're looking at engaging in the user group? 36% said for professional networking, access and engagement to the open forum, on-demand and in-person training opportunities. There's a ton of that. And access to robust content library, which we'll talk about here shortly as well. Well, thank you for those poll slides, Laura. If you want to X out of that, or maybe I can do that. I'm still sharing my monitor, so thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Real quick, I thought we'd just share, what is the user group? What is D365 UG? Who and what it is? And very simply, our mission kind of summarizes this. We want to engage individuals and organizations around a common software solution. Whether you use AX, CRM, 365, NAV, GP, or even the Power Suite of applications. We have a Power BI user group called PUG, and there's others coming with Power Apps and other things. So we want to engage people and individuals and organizations and allow people to network and work with one another to very simply use these to benefit them, their organization, and be more successful with the applications they use daily. And so this is our mission as a user group, is to support your intent and purpose of being more efficient with these applications, and that's kind of what the user group does. Our value is really surrounded around pillars, around allowing all of you as members and participants in the user group to exchange knowledge and explore, experience success, expand your professional connections, and exhibit leadership, whether that's locally in a chapter or maybe at an event. And I think Kelly, Ed, and Diane will all share some experiences they've had in doing this. And that's a part of the value that I think you'll experience in growing both professionally and personally in your role of using Dynamics. So across the globe, the user groups have really grown. I've been with the organization around 7 years, but Dynamic Communities is the founding organization behind the user groups of D365 UG, AXA, CRM UG, and so forth. But altogether, including our sister user groups with NAV and GP, as well as PUG, we have over 160,000 members globally, 23,000 companies that belong. There's a lot of volunteers, a lot of social followers. And I thought those specific to D365 and the AX CRM world, I just shared this last week in Dublin. I thought I'd just add it quick because it talks about kind of the breakdown of those that might be in the Fin and Ops and Unified Operations side of Dynamics AX, and then those on the customer engagement side of D365 and CRM UG. You can kind of see a further breakdown of the actual number of contacts involved, the companies. But the thing about the user group is we have a lot of people that attend our global marquee events, like we were just in Dublin last week for Summit EMEA. We have a marquee event coming up this October called Summit Phoenix. But aside from that, I want people to understand that your global user group is something that's happening continuously, every day, all the time, 365. And there are 139 global chapters that you can see here between AX, CRM, and D365 UG. The average monthly views and downloads I'm talking to really that talks to some of the community assets we have in our content library, where if you look at 20 given days of an average working month, 20 working days, we experience around 73 to 90 daily views and 170 to roughly 280 daily downloads of content that users and members are diving into. When we look at the open forum discussions that are going on a daily basis, there's 8 to 9 new threads daily in a working day every month. And then all the replies to those discussions, you'll see 18 to 19 daily replies to all the activity going on in your user group. So it's much more than a simple event or a local chapter or just a webinar here and there. There is a litany of things that your user group is doing, and it's all goodness from the ground up of people sharing with one another, doing things locally, sharing things virtually, having conversations virtually, And those are things we all encourage all of you to participate in to get more out of the application you're using, hence fulfilling the mission of what the user group is. So why would you engage and interact with the user group? Very simply put, these are some anecdotal comments that we thought about that might make sense to those of you. I'm interested to see what Kelly, Ed, and Diane want to share on why they engage and what it's meant to them professionally and personally. But you can read through these bullet points and get an understanding of why would you engage and interact with the user group. I think you'll find reasons that, the answer is very simply, yes, I need to. These are things that I can do. There are experiences I can share. And there's things that I can benefit another person. And by sharing with others, there might be an opportunity for me to learn from them as well. And that's all a part of the social infrastructure that exists in user groups that I think make it opportunistic for everybody involved. So becoming a member to the user group has its benefits. We have an open door policy for people to take part in a lot of the things we do. But if you join as a full-fledged member, there's benefits in that you'll have access to learn and develop and connect a little deeper than those that don't have full membership benefit. But again, the door is open for everybody to belong. And I think you'll see that membership will have its benefits and discounts that you can attend the marquee events, access to the full content library, the litany of resources that are available at your fingertips. So you'll take a look at some of those things as you explore your membership options with the user group. So how do you get started with the user group? When you join or when you take a look, you can visit any one of the websites, whether it's crmug.com, axug.com, or d365ug.com. And we have some how-to videos that I think will make it simple for you to expose your profile, how to use the discussion forum, how to add members to your own account. When you sign up as a member to the user group as an organization, anybody in your organization can belong and authenticate as their own unique profile. We would encourage that and get more of your key leaders of your deployment involved, your key power users, if you will. Make sure that they have access to this just like you would so that they can dive in and share with other like-minded users. Maybe you have business analysts or developers on your staff that need to be taking part in this because we have a developer community. There's a business analyst tag that we use that will kind of consolidate content and other things to your liking. So there's a lot of helpful tips on how to get started with the user group. The recording of the content library is one of the most popular things. I talked about the views and downloads earlier. Every spring, we go through a spring cleaning and we retag things that we've shared because any given year, I just looked last year, between the AX user group and the CRM user group of D365UG, we did 356 virtual topics last year. So any given month across AX, CRM, and D365UG, we are shooting for around 20 to 25 plus virtual topics to share with one another in a given month. And so, what that results in is a plethora of great library items for you to just browse at your fingertips. And so you might want to go explore those library options and take a look at, some of the things you may not even know that exist are right there at your fingertips. And then also with some of our upcoming live webinars that everybody can take part in or take in the open forum discussion, there's a lot of simple ways to just join and sign up for a lot of these things that the user group offers on a daily basis. And real simple to register for these things too. We have a one-click register option for all the upcoming live webinars. So you just one-click register, you'll get the workflow from our own 365 instance and you can add it to your calendar and take part in all of this. So let's get to the good stuff. Thanks for humoring me for 10 minutes. Truthfully, I know that was a little promotional on who we are as a user group and so forth, but like anything in the user group, we think it's best heard from the voices of those that participate in it. And so I'm very thrilled to have our three panelists today to kind of talk about who they are a little bit, how they've engaged, and some of the tips that they want to share on what the user group has meant to them. So let's dive into this. This is actually a formal format that we use in the user group called Ask the Experts, and we do these at our marquee events. We do them virtually all the time, and we're very happy to be sharing with Laura and Jason and team at MS Dynamics World today on how our members experience the user group. So let's dive into that, and let's start with Diane Taylor. Diane, are you there with us? Please share with others what you'd like to share. if you will.
Hi there, everyone. Thanks for having me, Tony, and thanks for asking. I'm excited to be here and share a little bit about my experiences with CRM UG, now D365 UG, and why I've become engaged and how it's helped me. So a little about me. I am from Saskatchewan, Canada. I work for a credit union here in Lloydminster, Saskatchewan, and I'm the CRM project lead. So really my role was to bring Dynamics to our company about 3 years ago, and then ensure that it was actually successful. So I became part of the user group kind of by happenstance. I learned about Summit, went online to register, and realized I could get a discount if I became a member. So that's how I became involved. Didn't really think much more about it until I went to Tampa a couple of years ago and learned really what the user group could do for me. Came back. We were still working with our partner at that time, building, implementing, rolling out to our staff, but I knew that we at some point needed to be able to manage and maintain the solution ourselves internally. So I reached out to the user group, realized there was a bunch of information, recorded webinars, and especially the open forum, asking questions if you get stuck, reading about things that really I didn't even know I needed to know. And then networking a little bit, recognizing some of the names that of people I met or sessions I attended when I was at Summit, and just making that connection with people, knowing who I could reach out to. So professionally, really, the user group has given me confidence in maintaining the solution internally, making suggestions to our executive management on initiatives based on what I know can be done now and what I've learned from the user group. I also have a huge network of people that I can reach out to, people I've met and feel confident in asking questions to. And it's also helped me grow my career. So I started this as a temporary position to bring a software solution to our company, and it's rolled into this permanent position with tons of room for growth of something I didn't even know existed 3 years ago. Personally, really it's given me the confidence and understanding that I know more than I think I do sometimes, and also in my public speaking. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Initially, I used the user group to ask a lot of questions. I felt like I was taking much more than I was giving. But eventually, I realized I could start to answer some of the questions others had. And then last year, in Nashville at Summit, I was able to present a topic of user adoption and deploying a solution to staff. And that really gave me the confidence and a sense of pride that I could represent my company on an international level and really help others get to a point that we knew we needed to get to as a company. So that's a little bit about how I use the user group, what I've gained from the user group, and really my tips would be to make time to use it. Become a member, but take time to browse. Check out the content and really use the information that's provided within it. Network virtually and in person as much as you can with others, and attend any of the hosted events that are available. The knowledge in informal conversations that you have with people is probably the most valuable piece that I've gained from the user group. And then share your knowledge with others. We all have something to share, and someone is going to benefit from it.
Thank you for that, Diane. That was great stuff, because that's typically what in my 7 years here, that's what I see a lot of. I see a lot of people that enter the user group first just looking for questions, because you know you're stuck somewhere, right? And then as you uncover those questions, you start to learn more and you gain a little more confidence. And then what I love to see is this transformation of someone that turns in from an administrator or a project leader that's stuck on something to someone who now has kind of that self-confidence to say, I can help others, I can empower others, I can lead things, I can speak at things. And all the while, you're growing your own professional network and you're doing a great job of sharing with one another and it's kind of a giver's gain mentality, and I think I've seen that firsthand with you, so thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
That's good stuff. Almost brought a small North Dakota tear to my eye, Diane. And when Diane mentioned internationals, Synergy Credit Unions up from Canada, because I could tell by that Canadian accent that I have in North Dakota. So thank you, Diane, for sharing that with us.
I often get accused of being from North Dakota, Tony.
I think you do. Well, next we'd like to head down to sunny California with Ed Gonzales. Hi, Ed.
Hi. It's not so sunny right now, though. We're actually seeing this wet stuff fall out of the sky. I have no idea what it is. So my turn. I've been at Hampton probably about 14 years or so, and I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago, we knew we had to do something, or at least I knew we had to do something, and got on board with the sales team and did a CRM implementation, and that was kind of what I'll call the start of my disruptive career here, because everybody around was kind of kicking and screaming, and part of that was, asking questions as far as why are we doing things certain ways and challenging people to think of new ways to do them. And I've sort of embraced that role of stirring things up and getting people to think about how they're doing things. And I think that's kind of become, for good or, not so good, my stigma here at work. I like it because it gets people thinking, and I don't like to be the type of person or company that does things just because that's the way we've always done it. So that's a bit about where I'm at now and what I've been doing. As far as the user group community, started a while back, just kind of, sidelines and stuff. I actually started on the AX side because before we had CRM. And, went to a couple of meetings and did a few webinars. But I think when I first got started on the CRM side, there wasn't the type of growth that we had experienced, Tony and I were talking about before the call. So it was, the content, because it is kind of peer provided, was thin. But now I'm completely amazed. Like if I run into a problem, I know for certain, one, somebody else has run into this problem, and two, if nobody else has run into this problem, the community is rich enough that there's going to be a solution out there. And I've found that time and time again, and that's one of the biggest things I enjoy about that. I've also, I've spoken, which is a huge thing for me. I'm not an extrovert. I'm not somebody that, kind of thrives on getting in front of people or, organizing things or leading the charge or any of that stuff. I'm, very much a technician, if you will, somebody that just sits down and does the work. So for me to get in front of an audience, and Tony, what was it, Tampa, so 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, Tony had me up on stage in front of, I think I counted about 1 million people.
Yeah.
And I was completely freaking out, but it was, it was good for me. It was good growth and good fun. And it was, it was a good community thing, right? And that's the other thing I like about the user group is just the sense of community. So from a straight, like, emotional side, you've got the support that says there's people here that feel you, that get what it is you're going through, and they'll walk you through it. You're not alone, so there's that part. And then on the pragmatic sort of left brain side, you have access to a network of, MVPs, industry experts, not just in the CRM and AX side, but also people that are in the same industry that you are, whether it's manufacturing or, software development or whatever. Somebody out there is doing the same thing you're doing, and you've got instant access to that network, which is huge. The story that I love telling is, one year at Summit, I had something that, I just couldn't get to work, and there was the what do you call it? The medical thing with the doctors.
Yeah, the medic
Yeah,
hub.
the medic booth. So there were like no less than 6 and probably around 8 MVPs surrounding my laptop trying to figure this thing out. And I'm doing the dollars in my head, trying to figure out what this would cost in billable hours if I had a consultant or 10 standing around my CRM instance, and they knocked it out. You know, they did it, and that pretty much, to me, that paid for the trip, right? Much less the membership. So that's, you know, that's my spiel on why the user group community is a good thing. If you don't buy it yet, I mean, just trust me on this, do it. It's totally worth it. My tips and tricks. Okay, so I came up with a cool acronym last night, kind of impressed. Learn something, so that kind of goes in with my challenge to myself to learn something new every day. But what I've found, especially in this thing, is there's a lot of stuff. There's so many different facets. A year ago, maybe just over a year ago, like I started getting into Flow and Power Apps and stuff like that. And, you know, I didn't have an immediate need for it, but I'm like, hey, this is cool. I want to learn it. So I started getting into it. And now it's like totally booming, and I'm using it for all kinds of stuff. So it's like one of those things where you just kind of you learn it, you file it away. Maybe you don't get super deep into it, but you at least know it's possible. And then later, when somebody says, hey, I wish there was a way to do whatever this thing is, then you go, oh yeah, you know what, there's an app for that, so to speak, to steal from the other guys. The engage part. So there's a saying, I think somebody talks about, you know, you get out what you put in. It's more than that. It's not a one-to-one return. You're going to get an ROI on what you produce as far as how you engage, how you submit things, how you do whatever. Like, I mean, I wrote a couple of articles for the magazine, and what I got out of that was phenomenal. I mean, the network of people that came to me and talked to me about that. And now I've got, you know, friendships, I've got resources, I've got, you know, all these things. Again, going emotional and pragmatic, there's something for everybody. And then the part I put in there too was kind of like a jump in a year saying yes, and that's kind of what got me going with the user group community. Is I just basically said, you know what, for the next year at least, somebody asked me to do something, you know, as far as contributing, I'm just going to say yes, and not worry about how scary it is, or, you know, how much I feel like it's not who I am. I'm just going to do it, and that was a huge growth thing for me. Share your experiences. So I listen to everybody's stories, and they talk about their success, their wildly successful implementations, you know, their administrative magic that they do, where they, you know, they're doing these workflows, they're doing code, they're doing, you know, all these whiz-bang things. I'm not doing any of that, and I'm like in my third year, fourth year of the CRM thing, and I'm still like struggling to get my salespeople to use it and embrace it and still go through the culture of becoming that digital thing, right? And it's like I feel like I'm telling the same story. I feel like I'm not progressing. But then what I found is people need to hear that story too. So the moral of that is, it doesn't matter what your story is, tell it, because somebody needs to hear it to feel better. And then the final thing is, start right now. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait for that perfect moment. Just start. Just, you know, open the door, step outside, and do this thing. You'll do it. And I guess you could use these everywhere, not just in the user group community, but feel free to call them your own. So that's me.
Thank you, Dr. Phil. That was great, Ed. I appreciate that, but it's so true.
I think he has more hair than I do, though.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't think so, but no, it's a great acronym, and it speaks to a lot of what we see as well. And I think Diane alluded it to as well. Like, you can share your experiences no matter what, and it might start with just questions you have on how you can empower yourself and understand more of the application you're using. You know, what do you want to understand first? But I do agree with you. It's so interesting because in the user group, we see people at different aspects of their deployment. Some people are brand new to Dynamics. They may have never used Dynamics AX or CRM or 365 before. And some people have had 20 years in the industry, so they fully get Dynamics. The point is, in the user group, there's audiences of all kinds. And I think your point there on no matter what, someone needs to hear your story, or there's something you might want to ask or share. There is no dumb question. There is no question that's too difficult for others to dive into. And your bit about the medics, and that's one thing that makes the user group so great, is that it's not just leaders like Diane, Ed, and Kelly that give of their time too. There's a lot of great people in the channel, particularly the Dynamics partners out there. The MVP community of Microsoft Business Solutions are very good at selflessly giving of their time to empower and better all of us as users of Dynamics 365. And without them, you know, it would be a bigger challenge too. So really have to tip my hat to those people that pay it forward and are so willing and selflessly of giving their time to share with one another. They're really great stewards of the community. So thanks for sharing, Ed. Appreciate that. And we can't let CRM take all the limelight here. We have to get one of the prominent leaders of the Dynamics AXUG and AX community in play. And Kelly Kane, great to have you on the call with us.
Hey, Tony. How's it going?
Doing good, Kelly.
Some of you might know I'm down in the Louisville, Kentucky area. I think that I've got that here on my little bio. I'm the manager of information systems for All Good Food Company. We actually manufacture peanut butters, jellies, jams, and preserves. We have a couple of different locations. Actually, one is in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, which is just outside of Frankfort. This is a real busy week here in Louisville, Kentucky. Do you know that?
I bet it is. Yeah.
We've actually got Kentucky Derby happens this week, so if anybody's ever heard of that, just know that that is completely overwhelming our city right now, and most people aren't even at work right now. It's kind of crazy, but it's been a lot of fun. So I've been at my company for 14 years, similar to, I think Ed said that he was at his company for 14 years, and we implemented AX, or we started the process back in 2012. And I didn't even hear about the user group until maybe 2013 from my partner. They told me about it, I signed up for it, but I really wasn't very engaged. I wasn't interested. I really didn't want to have anything to do with it. I actually was in the middle of our implementation. It was a horrible process. We had a terrible time of it. You know, we went from a legacy system in AS400, and just getting everybody to change to something else was sort of a nightmare. And I look back at that time, kind of laugh now, but at the time I was feeling a lot of pain. And I really wish I would have engaged with the user group a little bit sooner, because I think that I would have found my people sooner. Because like I said, 2013 happened, and they had a summit in Tampa. My boss said, I think you should go to this. I said, no, I'm not. I'm going to go on spring break with my kids, or fall break. It was fall break. I went on fall break, did something completely different. Next year pops around, and it was a summit in St. Louis, and I said, yeah, all right, I'll go. I'll do it. So I ended up going, and it completely opened my eyes to another world. And I actually kind of raised my hand at that summit and said, I'm ready to start participating. I want to become involved. So I actually became the chapter leader for the Kentucky chapter in 2014. We had our first chapter meeting in December of 2014, and we have been going strong with quarterly meetings ever since. We have approximately 50 attendees at every meeting, and we're actually planning a regional meeting at Churchill Downs, so we actually get to watch horse racing too, and that's going to happen in June, so next month. Not this week. This week's too crazy. But the chapter, for me, has been one of my favorite parts of interacting within the user group. I love everybody in the chapter. We are all pretty much manufacturing companies, so we're all using AX or Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations for pretty much the same things. So we have a lot of relevant discussions with each other, and we reach out to each other. It's a great network of people to have locally that I can reach out to if I'm having a problem, or anybody can reach out to me. We actually do this a lot. I mean, we all have each other's emails and our phone numbers, and we talk to each other quite a bit. So just outside of the chapter meetings. But then on the national level, I actually serve a lot more within the user group because my first experience was so hard and so difficult, and I just remember that not having very good training for beginners, and everybody was so overwhelmed with the new system, and having two systems going at the same time, and just all these different things that were happening. I thought, we really need something like an AX for Dummies tutorial. And so I started a webinar series through the user group called AX for Dummies. I haven't actually taught one in a while because we've brought in a lot of different speakers who are all kind of engaging in that, but I started the charge with that probably in about 2015 or 2016. And throughout that process, I became more confident in myself. So kind of speaking to Diane's, using the confidence or using the user group to become more confident in myself, I actually got to the point where I could speak now in front of people, and I could speak at a conference, and I could get up and feel confident in my skills and my ability. And that's kind of what it did for me personally, and just professionally too. I mean, the user group has helped me a lot. But getting me to the point where I could get up and speak in front of people, and I'm kind of goofy. I get up and I speak and I crack jokes and nobody laughs because they're really not that funny. But that's what happens, I mean, you get up there and the more actively you are involved, honestly, the better it makes you at your job. Everybody has noticed a huge improvement in my skills and my ability because I've interacted and engaged so much with the user group. And I've actually recently become the AXUG chairwoman for the Board of Advisors. And in the last year, I was nominated and received the Microsoft MVP Award. And so I don't know if you guys really know what the MVP Award is. If everybody on this call is kind of looking at becoming a Dynamics customer or not really involved with Dynamics yet, then what the Microsoft MVP is it's an award that is granted by Microsoft for very engaged people who volunteer within the community and share their knowledge of Microsoft products. And there are quite a few business applications MVPs, especially in the CRM world, but not so much in the GP, AX, and NAV world, or basically Finance Operations and Business Central. So really, would love to see some more people get actively involved and get to that level where you guys are nominated and can become Microsoft MVPs as well. And then
that's good. Go ahead, Kelly.
Well, I was just going to say, point out my blog here. She told me to give some tips and tricks, and I didn't really think about using it as a user group, but more like you can check out my blog, which is something I started when I was, it was something that I really wanted to start within the last couple of years or so to get some information out there. It's kind of geared toward beginners, but it's sort of funny if you have a weird sense of humor like I do. Then it's called AX Soup. It's just axsoup.com. There are tips and tricks on a lot of great topics, and I just threw a couple out there.
What is AOS? Draining the AOS?
The application object server. So it's just one of the things that makes AX run.
Performance related. Very well.
Yes.
I got to get out of my CRM mind. That's why that didn't look familiar to me. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, Kelly. That was good stuff. And that's the thing about the most valuable professional side. In fact, Microsoft even turned to us in the user groups. And to your point, Kelly, about trying to recognize more AX, NAV, and GP MVPs, they asked us, who are the engaged individuals across the user group. And it's great that we've been able to gamify our own instance of D365 UG. We now have 89 custom activity types that we associate to something we call volunteer engagement and engagement all up. So there's engagement activities, excuse me, that people do when they actually view or download or participate in something. And then we have a volunteer engagement activity that looks at things that to people that may have spoken at something or led a committee or are part of the chapter leadership team locally and all those different things. And I'm glad that Microsoft's asked us for more of this insight because I think it's great that they elevate more of the end users in the community to the MVP program, and it's great to see you've been awarded that, so that's great. And excuse me, you also hinted on something that I really caught notice to called My People. If you can tell from kind of the casual approach that Kelly and I and Ed and Diane have in the user group, it's because it is. We're casual. We are all end users. We are all functional users. Some of us do different things in our deployment. We all have different skills in how we use the application. But if there's anything of the user groups we want to leave people is that you will sense an attitude across the user group of a very kind of down to earth, we roll up our sleeves, we just get our hands dirty and help one another with the application. Sometimes it's not all politically correct. We don't always say the right things the perfect way, and some things even Microsoft may not want to hear. But the truth is, in the user group, all things go because we are here to support our mission as users first. The good, the bad, the ugly, and how we get things done and become more productive. That's kind of an attitude and a sentiment we want to lead with across your global Dynamics 365 AX, CRM, NAV, GP, and PUG user groups. So I'm glad she said that because I think you'll feel a sense of community. Sometimes it feels awkward to talk about things that are so generic, like what is community? You know, do we really know each other? I mean, we do know each other, but it's not in the personal sense of, hey, you know, Diane and I belong to the same PTA club. No, she lives in Canada, I'm in North Dakota. It doesn't work like that. But when you meet at a local chapter, you'll get to know your people. When you network and connect with people at a marquee event, you will feel that sentiment, as Kelly alluded to, of my people, like-minded users and like roles using these technologies. And it's amazing what will happen when you reach across the aisle and you introduce yourself to someone, you forge a new friendship, you learn something new, and so you'll get a sense of that community spirit across the user groups, and it's great to hear our panelists have that as well. So Laura, look at that. This panel is so good. We finished exactly on time at 15 minutes prior to the top of the hour, so we have 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. If anybody would like to submit a question, if to do that, I think, Laura, people just simply type in a Q&A question in their control panel. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. There's a Q&A box over on the right side of the window, and they can just type it in, and we'll be able to see it and address it.
Yeah, anything. For either of our panelists or myself, we'd be happy to answer things as best we can to help you understand more about the user group, how to get involved, how to dive in. There were some things that Kelly and Ed and Diane were alluded to about stepping up and sharing. A lot of that's tied to the volunteer initiatives that we do. So if you're interested in that side of it, you can go to any one of the websites we have, whether it's d365ug.com, crmug.com, or axug.com, and hit /volunteer. Go to the website /volunteer, and you'll be introduced to a form that will help you understand of how you can participate. Because, you know, to Ed's point, I pulled him up on stage. I kind of pulled you out of your comfort zone, Ed, and said, hey, can you help us with a general session? I think there's something here you could really share and shed some light on. And although it wasn't comfortable to you, there's different ways for people to engage and share even. You don't necessarily have to get in front of 1 million people and speak, but what you can do is you could write an article for the magazine. You could answer questions in the open forum. You could serve on a committee behind the scenes if you don't want to necessarily be in front of people. There's a plethora of ways to serve as leaders in the user group. But rest assured, I think the first step is just getting you involved. And I think starting there, if you have questions with your deployment, you're stuck someplace and you just want to ask a question, it's just a matter of engaging. So go to d365ug.com/join and just figure out how you can take part in the user group to begin with and understand you know, what's in front of you. So that's a great point.
Tony, it looks like a question came in here. It says, is anyone in the process of upgrading their CRM to version 9?
I can tell you, in fact, we are. We are upgrading our CRM Dynamics 365 8.2 instance to version 9, but we are hosted. We are partner hosted on-prem, so we have to wait till later this spring before I think we can even think about implementing that and some of the new features that came with that. Ed and Diane, I don't know if you're on any of those versions, are you?
No, we're not right now, but we will be. But I do know that there is a ton of people in the community that are in the midst of upgrading or have recently upgraded.
Yeah, and we're not either. We're actually just in the process of discovery for moving from 2016 to 365.
Okay.
So then
Rob Harrison
there was a
said yes.
Sorry. There was
Yeah,
a
I noticed Rob
on
Harrison
that,
said,
Tony.
okay. You're talking about from the gentleman or individual from the past user group for SQL? from Joe Kelly?
If,
I'm seeing a couple
yeah,
chat things come through.
Yeah, they're coming in through the chat. So if you don't mind typing the questions into the Q&A box, I'll try to read these from the chat because they're coming in. Joe Kelly's asking, is there a local chapter in Dublin yet?
There is. There is I'm not sure on the AX side, but we're trying to establish a D365 user group in Dublin. In fact, it's interesting. We were just there. There's an MVP that's helping us get it off the ground by the name of Joe Gill, Gill, and there is a local chapter being established in Dublin for Ireland. And there's already 4 established throughout the greater UK side of the house with Cambridge, Manchester, Reading, and I'm forgetting the last one. But so there is a lot of global expansion going on with global user groups, and so do seek out. What we do have on our website, there's a chapters drop down, a chapters page that people can visit, and you can search through a territory map. We have a third party called Easy Territory, and go find a local chapter near you, and you'll be able to search for your country. And if you don't have one, raise your hand. Maybe you want to start one. If there isn't anything local, but you know that there's a pretty good network of Dynamics users, whether it's AX, CRM, and likewise, let's ask questions and figure out if it makes sense to host one, because it fundamentally will come from you, as you kind of heard on this call, like someone like Kelly here, who I'm still showing on screen. She is a chapter leader for Kentucky. It takes some work and it takes some effort, and she leads that. She does a lot of things with the user group, but she's very proud of her local chapter, and so it's very much from the ground up. What we do as a user group is we support you with trying to make sure we can help find facilities. We support with catering and trying to alleviate the cost, because these chapter meetings are open to the public to participate in. And we certainly want members to show up and support it, and of course, but that's how we make these things happen. So it takes the goodwill of a lot of folks. So yes, so the get started part is what I shared with. I did see the other chat come through from Ginger privately. We've encountered an issue with the newer version in our test environment and would like to share. So Ginger, that sounds like something to, if you had a question on your test environment with the new version, that'd be a great question for the open forum community in d365ug.com. You can go to something called the open forum and just say, hey, here's a roadblock we ran into. Are there any solutions people have figured out? Maybe there's some other people that have had test environment issues as well. So that'd be a great place to share that. So good question there, Ginger. I want to ask our panel a quick question, because as you can sense, there's a lot of great leadership coming from Ed and Kelly and Diane. I was kind of curious about the amount of time you put into, not so much the volunteer side, but when you browse around and take time to look for things and understand things to better your environment, is there any set number of hours that you would say on a given week or month that you put in to the user group? And, do you have an ROI for it all? I've heard you all say, yes, we definitely benefit from engaging and taking part in it, but do you literally set aside like a 30-minute block of window every morning to browse and take a look at what's available and study and understand what's out there in the user group? How do you manage your time with your UG involvement?
Hi, Tony. It's Diane. I actually, just like you said, do have half an hour set aside every day. Mine's at the end of the day, just to kind of regroup, take a look at open forum chats, things I might need to know in the future. Like Ed had said, just knowing what's out there and being able to kind of file that away to know for later, and answering some questions if I have the knowledge to answer them. So usually half an hour a day. I also have notifications set up on the post, so if something intriguing pops up during the day, I go in right away and take a read of it.
So it's kind of like your Dynamics exercise every day, except you're actually committed to it and you do it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So give it a half hour every day, and you'll be amazed at what you come away with. How about you, Kelly, or
Hey, Tony.
anything? Yes.
Yeah, in the middle of the night is when I get my daily digest of all of the discussions that are happening in the open forum And I usually, first thing when I wake up, grab my phone and glance at those real quick, see if anything interesting came through that I want to maybe engage with or that I want to definitely read. If there is, usually I wait till I get to work. Like I start getting ready, but if there's something out there, I might say, yeah, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to play around in the user group today. See? But I don't really have a set time, no. It's more like, what's going on today? Am I going to engage today or am I not?
Oh, good. Anything for you, Ed?
So I read a book a while ago that basically said, it tried to find the most creative part of your day, and for me it ended up being in the mornings, and it said that that's the best time to try and learn new things. So I set aside the first hour of every day. Half of it is for learning, and then the other half is for creating. And in that half, I'll hit, my usual sources. So I've got, a string of places where I'm learning new things. And then part of that is also the UG website. And I'll try and find something where I can pick up, a new thing every day.
That's good. So whatever works for any of you works. That's great. It seems like you have all three phases of the day covered, morning, afternoon, and night in some respect.
Yeah.
That's ironic that all three panelists do it differently. That's pretty interesting. Well, Laura, I'm not seeing any other chat questions or Q&A come through, and if there are no other things to share, I just wanted to again thank everybody for participating in this. Particular thanks to you, Kelly, Ed, and Diane for sharing your perspective on how user groups have benefited you professionally and personally. And again, the call to action is very simple. Just reach out. Take part in something. You can join the community up front, or you can take part in a chapter meeting or attend a live webinar for free. Just see what you think and dive in with us. And that's the best way to kind of figure out if this is for you and if you want to be part of this and dive in and become a better Dynamics user. So I sincerely want to thank MS Dynamics World. Thank you for attending this call. And Laura, thank you for your time as well.
Yeah, excellent. This was a great discussion, lots of great insight. We really appreciate all of you being on the call today. We did record today's session, Tony, so we'll be making that available. And for those of you that are on the call, thank you so much for your time. When you close out, a very brief survey will pop up. It only takes a few seconds, and the feedback helps us and helps our presenters. So if you wouldn't mind taking a second or two just to fill that out, we'd appreciate it. And so with that, I guess we'll end there. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.